Did you realize that every day over 3,000 children are in our church? Every day. That will make you old real fast, just thinking about that, okay? But I have a lot of faith in these young people that are out there doing our job. But we continue to do that. Then we moved into membership, and you saw facilities really start coming on in the 80s and 90s and 2000s because people wanted to belong. They wanted to get back to that muscular Christianity, so to speak, in the nice facilities. And we're doing that and trying to become more of, okay, how do we support the communities? But we're now in the 8th or 9th, depending on how you count, movement of the YMCA. And that's called healthy living. You don't have to look far in the newspapers or walking around or just being out there to see that we have a train wreck in this nation in healthcare. We have changed as a society. Diane and I were talking about her grandmother that lived to be 101 years old, and I think her sister that lived to be about 98 years old. So she comes from some very good genes. Now they were very unhealthy. They ate sausage and bacon and eggs every single day of their life. And they died early at 101 and 98. But those women worked every day out there providing for their families out in the gardens and taking care of things like that. We don't work that way anymore. Our lives have changed. And if you happen to just see the Times-Dispatch this morning, it's an amazing article of the gentleman that works there. Had to go a surgery route to get it, but I mean, he was tipping 1/4 of a ton, as he said, almost 500 pounds. He's down now to about 4 something, and he's looking to get down even more. It's an amazing story, but that is affecting us all. If you don't think it's affecting you, then you're wrong. Well, the YMCA is pushing into that. We have very signature programs where we deal with cancer survivors, and we're dealing with diabetes, and we're dealing with Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis. We're dealing with arthritis. We can do it because we have great facilities that do it. Number one, we have a lot of water. We have 24 pools. I'm tired of swimming pools. You just need to know that. People say, don't you want a house with a swimming pool? No, I don't. I got 24 of them. Okay, but that's something we have as an asset. That's just a little bit of the history of the YMCA and what happens here. Tracy did a great job of teeing things up. She's right. We touched 177,000 people last year. But what a lot of people don't know is that we have 9,000 volunteers like sitting here right in front of me right now. 9,000 volunteers. They gave us a significant amount of value. You get the IRS involved, they'll tell you it's almost $2 million worth of service. Number one, we can't pay for that. But number two, it speaks to the scale and the depth of what the community feels about the YMCA. I can tell you about, in about 4 weeks, that we're going to have 40 summer day camps serving over 2,000 children every single day. That'll make your hair grow very fast. I can tell you that we're going to move them around on 70 buses. So if I had any black hair left, it's gone without them, okay? I can tell you that we go into every single Richmond City public elementary school, all 22 of them. We teach every second grader how to swim. We've been doing it for 20 years, did you know that? And then there's another 20 some odd schools out in Goochland, Powhatan, I'm looking for guidance here, Henrico, Chesterfield, I think I got them all, Hanover. Okay, good, I'm learning, I've been here 4.5 months, I'm getting it. But we have another 20 to 22 schools that we do the same thing. Because when you read a story a month ago of the 2 young men that drowned in Appomattox with BSU, that's one drowning too many. The YMCA or somebody could have been in their life 15 years earlier and taught them how to get out of that river. Maybe not to make an Olympic swimmer, but how to get out and save your life. And we're not going to pass judgment what you're doing in the river at that hour, but that was something. I couldn't tell you about that. And I could tell you about how different volunteers like yourself and supporters step up and give the YMCA $3 million a year. So we can go out and spend $6 million in program service that touches 55,000 people. So if we served 177, a third of those folks are receiving some kind of financial support to make it so they can do something they can never afford to do. That maybe they have cancer, maybe they have diabetes, maybe they need after school help. That we can do it because of the generosity of so many in the community. People say, why'd you come to Richmond? You had it made. I was in Wake County, that was my home. I moved there when I was 7 months old, so I've been there for a while, okay? I started at the YMCA when I was 7 years old. My mom took me there, she needed a break. I'm convinced the car was still rolling when she opened the door and let me out. So I've been there for 50 years. I did a few other things when I got out of school, and I watched the perfection of basketball in Chapel Hill, but we won't go back there. So I did a few other things, but I started 27 years ago at the YMCA. I had the honor of being part of Camp Seagull, if anybody's ever heard of that. It's our camp. I see heads nodding. Okay, I was a program director there. I started as an 18-year-old part-timer on canoeing in cabin 5, but I came up, that's where I cut my teeth. But I am a poster child of what happens when the YMCA gets in front of a kid that's troubled. I didn't have a dad. He was big in the military. Sidebar, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I am a Virginian. My roots come to Virginia. My father's family was in Martinsville and Danville, Virginia. Okay, that's where they were. He and 3 brothers. Nobody had children but him. My sister was born before the war. And if you remember at that time, he was part of the very famed 116th, 29th, the Bedford Boys, that hit Omaha in the first wave. At the last second, he got transferred to Patton because he was an invasion specialist, and he went to Italy as a divergence. Had he gone in on there, there's a good chance you'd have somebody different standing before you right now. But God's hand's an amazing hand. And so from this family that had 4 boys with no children, he had a daughter. Last second, he's pulled out of the Omaha wave. Can you see how the hand's working? And then comes back, I'm born, I have 3 sons. So this branch has gone like this, and now it's going like this. And my prayer is that God will work in my 3 sons in magnificent and mighty ways. But the point being is when he came back from the war, he had a parasite he contracted. It was known as alcoholism. It destroyed my family. The basic thing I can say is that I never remember waking up, ever. I never have a memory ever of my father being at home when I woke up. Back then, they didn't divorce, they separated, so he lived somewhere else. But the YMCA got in my way when I was 7 years old. Incredible staff, incredible volunteers, just kept chipping away. This kid, that they said, he's an amazing leader. There's something about him. He's either going to make $1 million or he's going to do life in prison. He's going one way or the other. He's not going to just be calm. And I guess you can see it right, I'm not calm. But the point being is somebody kept chipping away, speaking into it. I showed up at Camp Seagull. It was a great impact in my life. And so I'm here to say whatever you're doing, whether you're serving as a volunteer on the board, whether you give up your time, your talents, or your treasures to the YMCA so a staff member can get out there on one of those 70 buses, one of those 3,000 kids in those after-school programs, teaching swimming, whatever it might be. Sometimes you might just change a life. They'll never know your name, and they might grow up to be your next CEO. You just never know. But all that said, and if you're not tired, I'm tired just telling you about it, because I'm still just learning this place. This is an amazing place and the ministry that goes on here. All that said, I'd like to take us down a little road here, if we may. Because one of the things that really pulled me in here is the philanthropy in this community. Richmond is amazing. Now, philanthropy, as you know, y'all are very smart here, it comes from the Greek word philos and anthros, I think is what it is, which means love of mankind. Okay? Now, a lot of people think, oh, that's fundraising. No, that's not fundraising. Fundraising is a science. It must be done. It gets to an end. It's a means. But here at the YMCA, we focus on philanthropy, the love of mankind. And by that is how do we serve each other? When you get to know this community, and here's the blessing I have, I'm brand new here, so everything is raw and real, and I'm trying to go do everything and soak it all up. You have an amazing community here. There's so many people, so many groups that are pouring in and addressing so many needs. Some with money, some with time, some with tutoring, some with other assets. It's amazing what you have here. When I was in Raleigh, I didn't see what I had in Raleigh because I'd always been in Raleigh. And I was just used to being there, and I took it for granted. I wonder how much those of us here that we've had amazing lives here, this is what we do we really see everything that's going on? You have a very rich, robust, and vibrant community. You also have some significant needs here. We got some heavy lifting to get about. Well, we have a little statement. I guess I have it, I'm not sure if we have it yet, but it's what I have here. And that is, leaders are learners. Lifelong learners. I have 3 sons. 2 of them are out of college, one of them still in it. And they've all said, boy, I can't wait to get out of college. I don't have to do school anymore. I said, you're going to be learning all your life. At least you need to. Because as long as you're growing and you're green, you're good. But once you think you got there, you're right, you start to run. So leaders are learners. Well, we introduced something, a book that I just happened to have read back in Raleigh. It's getting great traction. I don't know if anybody here has read it, but we introduced it to the board. Let's just say the board hit on this like a piece of meat in a lion's cage. They've robustly started talking about this. It is spreading to other boards. Matter of fact, several branch boards have now picked up on it and they're going, we want to do it. Where I bought like 50 books here or 75 books there, we just placed an order for 350 more. Okay, so I know the author's going, what's going on in Richmond? This book's going on. You might have seen this book, I don't know. And I get no royalties off of this book, so don't get me wrong, okay? Have you ever read the book Toxic Charity? Toxic Charity. The author, this is an assimilation of information over 40 years of ministry work in urban centers as well as third world countries. I'd like to just read you a piece of this. Because what he talks about is what happens when our good nature, our charity, our drive from within to serve others actually ends up hurting others. Grab this. And I got to read this, so please forgive me. Public service is a way of life for Americans, giving part of our national character. But sometimes our compassionate instincts and generous spirits actually can be toxic to the very people it is meant to help. When we do for those in need what they have the capacity to do for themselves, we disempower them, destroying personal initiative, creating and increasing dependency, diminishing dignity. Our good intentions can have unintended dire consequences. Our free food and clothing distribution encourages an ever-growing handout line, diminishing the dignity of the poor while increasing their dependency. We converge on any city neighborhoods to plant flowers and pick up trash, battering the pride of residents who have the capacity and the responsibility to beautify their own environments. We fly off on mission trips to poverty-stricken villages, hearts full of pity and suitcases bulging with giveaways, trips that one Nicaraguan leader describes as effective only in turning my people into beggars. Ouch. Ouch. We need to wrestle with this concept. Now, let me tell you, I am the solution and I have been the problem. Through my church, I have stood on the porches with arms full of turkeys and dressings and food and Christmas gifts for those in need that can never do it. I've been those that have wrapped up gifts and put them in there off of angel trees or other type things and take them to these kids that have a need. Nobody says they don't have a need. And watch the children jump up and down and the mothers with tearful faces of thanks, not noticing that the dad has shrunk back into the bedroom and closed the door because I have robbed him of dignity and pride because he could not do for his own family. We don't have to go far to see how those things work. The board has said, wow, what are we doing wrong? And I'm like, well, time. We're not doing anything wrong. Maybe we can do it better. Case in point. In Raleigh, I had a friend of mine, Freddie Johnson, who started a store called the Family Store in one of the housing communities. Okay? So instead of us taking our gifts to the doorstep and saying, here, this makes me feel great because I'm dealing with this tension of, inasmuch as you have done it to the least of these, my brothers, you have done it to me. Matthew 25:40. I believe in that. And it's making me feel good, and I feel I'm the hands and feet of God going out to help. I'm not realizing what I'm doing. Instead, what happens is we would take our Guides and Princess Tribe. I think y'all have Guides and Princess here. We have that here. Great father-child program. And we would take our sons or daughters, we go shopping at Toys R Us, and they're all excited, the 6-year-olds, say, hey, go pick out anything you want. They would usually go pick out an action figure. Go figure, boys. And so it's something we do like that, and then we sit and talk about children that don't have enough. And it's amazing how fast children can pick up and they want to help another child. I always say, how can I help, Dad? How can I give it away? And we load them all in the car and say, we got a place. And we go to my friend's place called the Family Store, as I mentioned, and we bring the gift and we will give it to him. And what happens is embedded into community is a store where the community residents come throughout the year and they work. And they build up either real dollars or virtual dollars. So then when it becomes Christmas, they with their children go Christmas shopping, look, they listen to their children with their excitement for the G.I. Joe doll or a doll or something else. They then go back home, they come back, they cash in their virtual dollars. They buy the toy themselves, they get wrapping paper themselves, they wrap it up, they put it under a tree. We get to the same ends, but the means of how we're getting there is different because there is dignity, there is pride. There's a God-given worth in work. It was established a long time ago in the garden. Take care of it and name the animals. God blessed work. All of those there, we are not continuing to foster entitlement. We still have a good feeling in answering the call as we are charged, but we get to those greater goods at the end. And my friends, I've seen it work. I've seen it work. That does not mean that all that we do here is bad. Here being Richmond, it is good and where we go, but maybe there's a better way. I was looking on your webpage and you had a great statement, and forgive me if I get it wrong, but from our giving we realize our abundance. And it's almost like twice blessed. I'm blessed to be able to give what I have been so blessed to. I've been so blessed to be able to help and give. But in that, I get a blessing in itself, is the way I interpret that. And see, like I said, I'm the problem. If you hadn't picked up, I'm kind of the male representation of Tracy Ragsdale. The last thing you want to give me is a Red Bull or anything else like that. I got nothing. Okay? But I am a type A+++ personality. Okay? I believe get in, get it done, get out. I'm well resourced. By the eyes of the world, I am a gazillionaire. So I'm well resourced. I want to get in, fix it, and get out. But that's not what he's talking about. That's not what community development is about. Community development is slower. You have to go in and listen. My wife will tell you I don't do that well. But she can't talk right now. I'm the one speaking. You have to go in there and listen. Every community has assets. What you have to do is you have to find those assets and pull them out. I don't care where the poverty might be. I don't care where the issues might be. There are assets. Do we take the time to pull them out and listen? Do we do for people or do we do with people? Look it on your website. Y'all do amazing stuff. You have Mary's Closet. I think it is a clothes thing. You have a shawl ministry, if I remember. Your teens are very active doing something on West James for some of the poverty out on the west side. It's interesting when you read it. It even says the teens going to West James doing for the people. Not with the people, for. And understand, it's just a semantics, but I just wonder how much happens. Anybody here ever been on mission trips in this organization? Do y'all do overseas mission trips? Don't do that? Okay. A lot of people spend gazillions of dollars in almost this business of doing mission trips overseas. I contend we can do that right here in the community. Do you realize the number of ethnic cultures right in pockets around this area? That we can just go there to them. First off, that's about a $2,000 price tag that we can save there. And we can say, how can we do this differently? What are your needs? You can always tee them up. Safe places to live. They love their children just like we do. Good educations. Places for jobs, because there is dignity in work. How do we sit down there and bring others around us to do that? It's very interesting. There's been other speakers that have come before me. Caritas, I think, was here. Harold was here at CIS. And then a young lady with Feedmore, I think the former CEO there, met the new one there. Okay? Unbelievable organizations. The YMCA partners with all three of them. Did you know that? We work with them. Now, we're not going to do homelessness. That's not what we're called to do. Caritas says that. However, we open up our facilities, the assets we have, and they will come and use our showers. They will come work out on our facilities and swim in our pool. Because it just gives them a normalcy of life for what they're doing. Feedmore. They partner with us with them at Woodville Elementary on the east side, if you're familiar with that elementary school, where they do the snacks for the children in our charge after school. They also provide supper 5 nights a week. So those kids get a meal before they go home. And they do the meal backpack program that the kids take home. So it might be the only food there. Now, are we invalidating a principle of toxic charity, of giving a handout when it needs to be a hand up? I don't know. I don't know the depth of the need there. But I can tell you this, in America, we do not have a food crisis situation. All you got to do is go to Africa and see abject poverty where people live on less than $2 a day. You can see that there's a food poverty issue. We don't have that here. Are there food needs? Yes, there are. I'm a former educator. If their bellies are empty, they cannot learn. You've got to fill their bellies. And I believe that's also scripture. Anytime you look in the New Testament, he was always feeding those mugs before he started talking to them. You had to get their attention, fill the belly. Okay? Had to do that. So I understand it, but we partner with them. CIS, they recommend the children with the principles that we serve in that school. So all of us come together, but I wonder, here's the one thing that's interesting to me, and this is a snapshot that I look to my board members here, my emeritus members. Where's the faith community in the YMCA? Is there an ecumenical council? I hear a lot of amazing stuff that's done by a lot of amazing churches, but is there a coming together to say, hey, these are the needs we're going to get after? We can't do it all, but we can do this. Where's the YMCA sitting at that table? I had an amazing leader who goes, why is the YMCA not at the table? I mean, that's a great question. When you look at the 19 branches, and did I tell you we have 70 buses? And all the assets of how we can move things around and do, very geodiverse stuff that we can be a part of, I don't know. It's a wonderful question because we work with so many different organizations. Our mission, and I'm sure y'all know it right off the top of your head, but in case you've forgotten it, our mission is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build a healthy spirit, mind, and body, and don't miss these last two words, for all. That mission compels us, it drives us to be about our cause of strengthening the communities that we serve. That's all we do, is we just try to strengthen them. Now we're going to laser beam focus in, and aren't you glad I'm not calling you out to see if you know exactly what it is, but going to laser beam in on youth development. We serve youth, we've been doing it for 160 years. On healthy living, we're good at that. We know how to do that, both teens, children, adults, seniors, and social responsibility. That's what drives your YMCA to get out there and serve. We're not the end-all be-all. We cannot fix it all. But we can sit at this table together to get about community development. Let me share with you the writer in Toxic Charity. He has an oath. He calls it an oath of community development. See what this sounds like to you. This is the oath for compassionate service. Never do for the poor what they have or could have the capacity to do for themselves. Well, how do you know what the capacity is? We got to listen. We got to sit at the table. Not just come in and paint the building and leave, because we see these paintings. Maybe they like that. Limit one-way giving to emergency situations. There's always emergency situations. People get burned out of their house, or there's spousal abuse that mom has to leave with the children. There's emergency situations we have to step into. It doesn't mean we stop doing it. It's just at what point do we move from an emergency situation and instead then move into a development situation and helping them with their capacity and what they can do on their own. Strive to empower the poor through employment, lending and investing using grants sparingly. Because if you keep giving grants, then there becomes a dependency. Subordinate self-interest to the needs of those being served. You're talking to me, wow, it makes me feel good to go out there and do what Jesus tells me to go out there and do. What does he say is the perfect religion in James 1:27? Is to take care of the widows and the orphans in their time of need and keep oneself from being polluted by the world. And please don't get hung up that orphans and widows mean that they don't have a daddy or don't have a husband. There's a lot of people that are orphans. Maybe some sitting right here in your congregation. They're orphans or widows in terms of emotional or spiritual or relational or physical situations, not just economics. Listen closely to those who seek to help, especially what is not being said. And above all else, do no harm. Well, I don't mean to do harm, I'm just trying to do good. Yeah, I know. So think. Slow down. Here, let me go ahead and tell you. You know that part of the scripture where Jesus is addressing Mary and Martha? Martha. I love to do that myself sometimes. Martha. You can almost hear it. Mary's about what's important. Here's Martha. That's me. I'm the one that's dealing with the details. Because I know when he finishes talking, everybody's hungry. They got to eat. They got to have it ready. You know? I wonder if any other Marthas exist in this congregation or in this community that just want to get out and go get it done and keep moving. I must slow down and listen, because when I do, the greatest way that you can show respect to somebody is this. And then help it. There is a progression of giving and dependency, so says the author. Let me just share this with you. You give once and you elicit appreciation. You give twice and you create anticipation. You give 3 times, you create expectation. You give 4 times, now you moved into entitlement. And you give 5 times, and now you've got an independence. We've got to be careful how we do this. We have to remember that community development is different than community service. Community service is good, but there's a point where we have to end it and then move into development. And many times it's really hard to see that. The author goes on to say, little affirms human dignity more than honest work. And one of the surest ways to destroy self-worth is subsidizing idleness. A lot of that happens in third world countries. He tells stories about how they go and dig wells and bring water, life-giving water, and then come back a year later and nobody's using the well. And say, what happened? Well, the motor broke. We didn't know how to fix it. We're waiting for you to come back and redig it or fix the well. Instead of letting the people dig the well, learn how to operate the motor so they can keep it going and take care of it. When we focus on what is wrong, many times we miss what's right. There's a tremendous amount of right. Now I know some people have always said, wow, you are an idealist. You're from North Carolina. You're new here. I said, yeah, I am. But I got one thing nobody else has, right? I got fresh eyes. I see things you can't see. And I've got about 8 months left. And then I've been through a full 1 year cycle, and I will start to lose it. I'll start to develop blind spots. So then we're all in together. So right now, I'm going to speak as loud as I can, where I can. Hopefully I'm hitting some good chords with people and they understand it. I'm learning as well. But if I could challenge you, go get this book. Read this book. If you don't like it, I'll double your money back. And I have no, like I said, I have no hunt in this game. But the one thing we've got to do is learn to come together. So Tracy's not back there giving me signals. Okay, I got to check my time here. Thank you. I got people on the last one. You know, but you're nice. The big thing that we need to do is figure out how do we all come together in collaboration and work together. Because one entity, one person can't do it. How does the YMCA work with St. Mary? How does the YMCA work with the entire ecumenical community? How do we sit and learn what truly are the needs there that we can get about? You need to realize I am not calling out specks in people's eyes. I realize the plank in my own. And I'm going to work as hard as I can to get that plank out and get rid of my blind spots and just sit still and ask the question. And realize when you see me sitting real calm and I look like I have it together, I'm like a duck on water and my feet that you can't see are going 90 miles an hour underneath me, but I'm just trying to sit still and listen. I'm going to pledge that, do my best. But I hope that the YMCA can saddle up beside you and whatever you're doing, say, okay, how can we be about it? Because remember, I got 70 buses. I got some. And I have a lot of children. I got to tell you this funny story, and then I'm going to entertain questions here if I may. Okay, so my mother just recently died, 95. Lived a long life. Don't say the only medicine she was on was eye drops. Okay, wonderful. Loved the ballet. She was one of those. Very much in the ballet. My sister danced ballet. I have been punished with ballet all my life, and I use that word. I've seen more performances of the Nutcracker in Swan Lake than one human being should ever have to watch. So I'm at the Richmond, I'm with the Chamber of Commerce, and we have one of those business after hours at the ballet school down on, one of those, Cary Canal, one of those. Amazing facility. And they're doing these improvs, having these different teachers come in. I see some heads nod, 15 minutes, very interpretive, upbeat music. The most amazing thing I've ever seen. They're smiling, the music's up-tempo, the athleticism is amazing. I've never seen ballet like this. I mean, I'm enjoying it. So I go down and talk to, I think it's Brent or Brad, who's their program thing. And I found out that they have this program called Minds and Motions. Have you heard of it? What do you think? Okay, good. So they take it, go out to schools, etc. And so I'm telling them, look, I said, we serve about 3,000 children every single day. And a lot of those live in areas that I promise will never cross the threshold of this building. I also have 70 buses. I can put those children on those buses and I can bring them to you. If you'll open your doors and get your athletes to do minds in motion within you. What do you think? Well, of course, his eyes, his face just lit up. Because here's what happens. Those children, now their vocabulary changes. They know what ballet is. They know what the third position is. The third position. You don't know about the third position. That's the extent. I'm not going any further. Okay, they learn that vocabulary. They've seen it. So now in discussions and in life, there might be something come up that they can speak from an experience. Or heaven forbid, on the SOL, there's a question that talks about ballet or something. They have the experience. They can speak to it, therefore their education goes up. That's how I can connect the dots to that. How does the YMCA work? I love to make this statement here. This organization, this YMCA, your YMCA, was built a long time before I got here. A lot of people have given to build these facilities, these programs, and have helped lead it through governance. It's run by the community. Tracy, Wally, Martha, got it? Okay? They're on our boards. They run it. And we serve the community. Therefore, it becomes a community asset. What do you want to do with your asset? How do you want to leverage it for the greater good of this community? So let me ask a question. And I can see people walking behind me, and I am going to get quiet. It's like a rotary meeting. Everybody's going to get up and walk out. So what is the greatest need in this community that if we all put our shoulders together, that if we could solve, that we would have a transformational impact on this community? And that's a big word I use. Transformational, not transactional. What is the one thing? I used to be a middle school teacher. I will call you out if you don't answer. No bad answers. Anybody have anything, just shoot it out here.
Disintegration of the family.
Disintegration of the family. What are some of the factors you think it could be?
Well, teen pregnancy and lack of responsibility on the father's part. Poverty.
Do you know that we have almost 1,000 teens in our teen clubs? That every one of those programs we're teaching responsibility. We teach our values of respect, honesty, responsibility, caring to everybody, built upon a faith in God. A lot of people don't know we have that many teens there. That we just start there. A lot of people also don't know, y'all might have to marry Tyler McClanahan Child Development Center. That's a mouthful. Used to be Friends. Folded his doors, unfortunately, came to the YMCA and said, we've got to fold, we can't keep going. If you don't take these children, they're on the street. The board decided, without the funding behind it, initially to take it on. We've grown that program from 80 children to over 157. 157. Had that closed, those kids would have had to go home because they had no child care. Those moms would have had to leave their jobs. That cycle just keeps going. So the disintegration of the family is good. Others.
Addiction?
Addiction? To what?
Well, I guess there's a lot. There's alcohol, drugs, food.
The world. You know how many kids, I heard a story of one of the kids in the programs that basically dropped out of school. Now here's the silver lining, because he's running drugs. Because he can make a living quicker, and his whole thing is, I want to get out of this neighborhood as the fastest way I can get out. So he sees he's got to get out of the neighborhood. The way he's getting about it is wrong. It's kind of like Robin Hood. Robin Hood is not of God. God would never say, go steal to take care of the poor. He would never do that. So here's this kid that's dealing in this confusion of the world, knowing what is and what can't be. What's your life? The addictions. How do we fill those holes to help them be a little more secure? Any others?
Do you work with Peter Paul?
Yes, we do. Damien Jiggers, I think it is. I met him, and we have a program down at their site from a tutorial standpoint. I wish I could tell you the robustness of it. I don't know, but I know that we work with them. We work with CIS, Boys Club, Girls Club.
They're very much into this toxic charity idea. They know that if they keep on feeding the community with it as kind of a participation from the residents, that it won't work.
Yes.
We're really into that. So they have them come and help with food, and so it won't be all gifting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it's just such a great philosophy.
Peggy, that's actually an area, Woodville Elementary, where you run the program that you mentioned, is right there. Julia Cooper,
Yeah.
and Peter Paul. There are a bunch of different nonprofits that are working in that area. And part of our vision as we go down there is how do we come together, because all these places have these kids basically during the school year. What can we do during the summer to try to bring them all together and keep them safe so that we can continue this type of work? So,
Because we know if you have a child all year, you will go much deeper with them, and you will change their lives at a greater impact than if they check out and go back to the environment for 12 weeks and show back up at school.
Can I ask you a quick question? I thought about this a lot without knowing about that book. But transformational development, requires a lot of assets. And it's my understanding that nonprofits play a numbers game sometimes in terms of funding, right? So you can't say that you serve as many people if you're actually transforming lives. So does that require a mindset change from the funders, or, I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yes, I believe so. Case in point, I'm the new guy, so I can throw out a new guy card and hopefully be safe, because I don't mean to offend anybody with my statement. But there seems like there's a lot of organizations around here doing about 50% of the same thing that is causing a lot of donor fatigue, both in resources, people, dollars, etc. And just judging by the way you're nodding your heads, and I see that every time I say that. So then my question is, well, how do we change that? Now I understand scarcity and abundancy mindsets. A lot of people are afraid, wait, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose this funding, this is something passionate to me. Do I give up my identity? I was involved in Raleigh with another YMCA, an African-American YMCA that had a heritage like ours, 150 years old. But because of that heritage, they were having problems. They would not come together with the YMCA of the Triangle. Black, white, if you want to be really crass about it. They wouldn't come together because they were afraid they'd lose their identity. We were saying, oh no, wait a minute, you don't have to do that. We can maintain this. We're able just to bring that administration and oversight to help. Do you know they forfeited their YMCA charter of 150 years because they could not bring themselves to give up. They thought they were giving up too much to come be a part. That same thing is, I know is on the mindsets up here. But I can tell you what drove that decision and what will drive other decisions is coming from the other side. That's the funders. The funders got to say enough is enough. We will not fund and work except with those that work with other people, and we're going to give them publicity so we can be better stewards of that. So yes, it does take a mindset, and I can see the hook just stood up in the back, so my time is now over here. So I want to thank you for an amazing opportunity just to come and visit y'all. This has been a real honor and a real privilege. If there's anything, I got to ask you to do me a favor. Here's a favor. So everybody hang on this. Because Abraham Lincoln said this one time, never finish anything without asking people to do something great. I'm going to ask you to do something great. Okay, a lot of times we need people to be advocates for the why. They go out and they tell the why story. I've given you some history here of the why. I've given you nuggets. You can go out and say, hey, do you know they teach every second grader in Richmond public schools how to swim? You got nuggets. I want you to do me a bigger favor. I want you to listen for the need. And when you hear people go, golly, I got this going on, what am I going to do about that? I'd love for the first thing out of your mouth. Now I'll say the second. First thing would be, have you called St. Mary's? But maybe the second is, have you called the YMCA? Have you called the YMCA? Because we might be able to fix it, or I know we can connect them to who can do it. I know that we can. And I'm just crazy enough to believe it. Because with this already, we're going to be known as this, as a charity with solutions. We're going to be known as that. Though we've already been doing it for almost 160 years. I want to thank you for your time. This has been a true value.